Have you heard what Daniel Cormier just said? It seems he's got a plan for Paulo Costa if he wants to get the best leverage on the UFC. He thinks Costa should take on Khamzat Chimaev, which could potentially give him anything he wants. In this video, we'll be taking a look at what he said and a lot more. So, without any further ado, let's dive in. First up, what did Daniel Cormier say about Paulo Costa? Daniel Cormier believes that Paulo Costa could get the most leverage in the UFC by beating Khamzat Chimaev. Costa currently has one fight left on his UFC deal and is refusing to complete it or renew it unless he gets a significant increase in pay. Chimaev, who is unbeaten with a 12-0 MMA record and 6-0 in the UFC, is having trouble finding an opponent as 4 of them have allegedly refused him. Costa has called this out and said it doesn't make sense. The two have history, even getting into a brief altercation at the UFC Performance Institute. With Chimaev looking for someone to fight, Cormier thinks that taking on and beating the Swede would give Costa a huge boost in bargaining power. Cormier said that if Costa were to beat Chimaev, he would get anything he wanted from the UFC. He added that even if he was defeated and wiped out, it would still move the needle for him. However, if he was the first person to defeat Chimaev, he would be able to hold all the cards and demand whatever he wanted. Costa's refusal to fight has seen his upcoming bout with Robert Whittaker fall through, but it seems that he is still open to returning to the UFC if his terms are met. Up next, is a Costa-Chimaev fight needed? If Paulo Costa could pull off the impossible and become the first man to beat Khamzat Chimaev, he would be making MMA history. He'd have a claim to fame that no one else can take away from him, and if he did it in a flashy, impressive style, that's when the real bragging rights come into play. Not only would he have reignited the fire under his career and earned a massive payday, but he'd also be able to say, "I'm the one that did it. I'm the one who took down Khamzat Chimaev." Talk about swagger. Of course, it won't be an easy task. Chimaev is known as an incredibly tough and skilled fighter, but if Costa can pull it off, he'll also have more bargaining power than ever before in future fights. If Costa loses to the Swedish fighter, it wouldn't be embarrassing. After all, no one has beaten him before, but if he wins, it would be the perfect way to either end or extend his career. That's a win-win situation for everyone involved, including the fans. Coming up, what does Chimaev have to say about all this? For the most part, Chimaev hasn't exactly acknowledged the fact that Costa could still be a potential opponent for him. His claim that no one wants to fight him certainly caught the attention of two fighters who would love a chance to prove themselves against him, Paulo Costa and Belal Muhammad. Chimaev recently took to social media to complain about the fact that he couldn't find an opponent for UFC 285 and didn't mince his words when he said, "Nobody wants to fight. Effing these boys." Needless to say, this didn't sit well with Costa and Muhammad, who both fired back at Chimaev's post on Instagram. Muhammad replied by saying a bunch of non-MMA fighters rejected the fight, while Costa simply mocked the idea with an incredulous, "Does anyone still believe this BS?" Costa's contract issues have meant that they haven't been able to make it into the octagon yet. Meanwhile, Belal Muhammad is looking for a fight after his win over Sean Brady and would also love a chance to take on Chimaev. It looks like Paulo Costa and Belal Muhammad are just two of many fighters who would love a piece of Khamzat Chimaev in the octagon, so we can't wait to see who will eventually be brave enough to try and take him on. Neither man has officially challenged Chimaev, but they're two of his most likely opponents. Speaking of which, why does nobody want to fight Chimaev? Nobody seems to want to stand in the way of Khamzat Chimaev's ambition, but why is that? In his Instagram post, Chimaev claimed he had been offered 4 different opponents in 4 different countries, but nobody wanted to fight him. Daniel Cormier addressed this situation on his YouTube channel and suggested Colby Covington and Belal Muhammad as 2 potential contenders who could have received the call from the UFC. Cormier believes Covington may have declined the invitation because he's got his eyes set on a championship title against Leon Edwards. Meanwhile, DC suspects that Belal Muhammad has opted out because he's now 1 fight away from a potential title bout. But why would 2 top-level fighters dodge taking on Chimaev? Could it be that they know something the rest of us don't? Is Chimaev's rapid rise in the welterweight division really as intimidating as it seems? We're sure to find out soon enough, but until then, it looks like there's no stopping the Swedish fighter from continuing his takeover of the welterweight division. Keep your eyes peeled, folks. We're in for one wild ride. Next, Costa cancels his fight with Whittaker. Well, it looks like Robert Whittaker and Paulo Costa's highly anticipated middleweight bout at UFC 284 is not going to happen after all. Sources have told ESPN that the UFC has been unable to finalize the fight for their upcoming card on February 11th in Perth, Australia. While the event is still listed on the UFC's website, it's clear that efforts to get the two superstars in the octagon together have failed. It appears Paulo Costa, who has spoken out on his social media platforms against what he called fake news of the fight announcement, is too busy fighting for a new contract to be worrying about this fight. As for Robert Whittaker, the former champion who fights out of Australia, the UFC is reportedly trying to reschedule his fight for March or April. Whittaker himself expressed his disappointment in a video posted to Instagram, apologizing to all the friends, family, and fans that had planned on watching him fight. Costa has certainly not been shy in speaking his mind about the situation and recently commented on an Instagram post that the UFC should stop being petty. He also blamed the promotion's lack of negotiating skills for fights falling through. It remains to be seen if Costa will eventually reach an agreement with the UFC and just how long it will take for Robert Whittaker to get his chance in the octagon again. Up next, could Belal Muhammad be the biggest threat to Chimaev? Belal Muhammad is quickly becoming a force to be reckoned with in the UFC welterweight division. The 30-year-old fighter has gone undefeated in his last 9 bouts and recently picked up victories over some of the top contenders like Vicente Luque, Sean Brady, and Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. The Chicago native has been angling for a title shot and has even called out Khamzat Chimaev, who is one of the most highly touted prospects in the division. Many believe that it's only a matter of time before Chimaev becomes a champion. But according to former welterweight champion Matt Brown, Muhammad could be the toughest possible matchup for Chimaev. Brown believes that given their similar body types, styles, and disciplines, Muhammad could get the better of Chimaev in a 3-round war. He even said that if he had to pick one fighter who would be the biggest threat to Kamaru Usman or Leon Edwards, it'd be Belal Muhammad. It's clear that Muhammad is on the fast track to becoming a champion, and it won't be long before we see if Brown's predictions come true. More on that. Why does Matt Brown think Muhammad can beat Usman? Brown has also named Belal as his fantasy matchup for Usman's next title bout. But why? Well, Brown believes that Belal is simply on another level when it comes to his skill set, athleticism, and physicality. He thinks Muhammad's high-paced work rate and relentless pressure could make things difficult for Usman in a way he hasn't experienced before. The key to the fight would be whether or not Belal could keep up with Usman's world-class speed and conditioning. But Brown has faith in Belal, saying he's a truck who could threaten anyone in the division if he gets the chance. And finally, Belal Muhammad has been eyeing a fight with Leon Edwards. Belal Muhammad is not only calling out top welterweight prospect Khamzat Chimaev, but he's also looking for a shot at former champion Leon Edwards. Muhammad is so determined to prove his worth against Edwards that he's even willing to take the fight to the streets if needed. After their no contest back in 2021, Muhammad is out for revenge and has been on a 4-fight winning streak ever since. Speaking with the Schmo recently, Muhammad said he'd be ready to fight either Chimaev or Edwards in London if the UFC gives him a chance. However, it's still unclear what the promotion has planned for Leon's first title defense. Sure, Khamzat might be on the short list, but his significant weigh-in miss at UFC 279 could give them pause. So, will Belal Muhammad get his shot? Will Chimaev prove that he's a title-worthy contender after all? We'll have to wait and see, but one thing is for sure, this could be an epic showdown. Both men bring a unique style to the octagon, with Muhammad being an aggressive fighter who relentlessly pressures his opponents, and Edwards having a more technical and calculated approach. The combination of these two fighting styles would make for an entertaining fight that would surely leave fans on the edge of their seats. Muhammad is eager to prove himself as one of the best welterweights in the world, and Edwards is looking to defend his belt against all challengers. This means that both men have plenty riding on this potential matchup. That's a wrap for this video. Do you think Paulo Costa should take on Khamzat Chimaev? Let us know in the comments below. As always, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.